Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Good governance remains a cornerstone of sustainable development, peace, and economic growth in Africa. Yet many African nations continue to grapple with persistent challenges, such as corruption, weak institutions, lack of transparency in governance, poor public service delivery. Now, in the light of all of these issues, some observers argue that entrepreneurial interventions offer timely and effective pathway to a driven economic development to create jobs, improve governance, its outcomes across the continent. It's another episode on your favorite primetime show, Ways. My name is Messi Eboko. And today we're discussing entrepreneurial intervention for good governance in Africa. Nigeria is not exclusive. Remember, the Ways is all about you. It means that you are the why in the Ways, so you can join the conversation now, daily, always. Add your voice. All you need to do is just head over to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV and hit the subscribe button. Like, share, and invite your friends to join the show now. When the phone lines are open, I'd like to share your thoughts on this particular topic, so the phone lines will be open. As always, please ponder on my quote for today. Good governance is perhaps the single important factor in eradicating poverty and promoting development. This is by Kofi Annan. Now, we'll delve into this much later, but first off, I need to run off on a quick break, and when I return, I'll tell you what I found in the news. Please stay with us. Now, here's what I found in the news today. The United Arab Emirates has introduced a tougher visa rules for Nigerians. Now, according to the new policy from Dubai Immigration, Nigerians between the ages of 18 and 45 can no longer get tourist visas unless they are traveling with someone else, like family or the group. I don't think that this is actually new, because it feels like this conversation, maybe I'm having a deja vu right now, I'm not sure, but looks like I've heard this somewhere. Now, if you're 45 years or older, you must show a personal bank statement for the past 6 months, proving that you have at least $10,000 every month in your account. Oh no, nobody's going to go to, well, I can't say nobody's going to go to Dubai. Also, transit visa application have been completely banned. That's what I found in the news. Quite interesting, really. I can't say, but like I said earlier on, it feels for me as though we have had this conversation before. Maybe I'm having a deja vu. Looks like something that we'll had some other time. But away from that, is that the Nigerian Senate has approved a total of 287.4 billion naira for Nigerian Communications Commission, that's the NCC, and the Universal Service Provision Funds, the USPF, for the year 2025. Now let's quickly take a look at this, figure. 272.4 billion is going to go to the NCC. That's the agency that oversees telecom services in Nigeria. I'm sure you've been complaining, because me, I have been complaining about the poor services that we have. And over time, we've also experienced that. You know, we have guests and then we can't have a good connection, especially when they're joining via internet. However, 15 billion naira is, has been slated for the USPF. That's a special fund that will help them bring the internet and telecom access to remote and rural communities. Now, out of the 15 billion naira, you have 10.9 billion naira that will be used for projects like expanding broadband, improving internet in rural communities. I pray, I hope, and I wish. Teaching digital skills, that's also new. 4.04 billion naira is also for running the USPF office, and 53.96 million is for capital development. This sounds fantastic, sounds like a brilliant idea. There might also be one or two questions you want to ask, but really, we hope that all of this is actually used for the purpose that it's meant for, because over time, there's always embezzlement. This is where you find out that the funds have been diverted. But again, it breaks my heart that we can't have proper infrastructure. So let me tell you how it works. There's something called the remote culture. The remote culture, I think prior to COVID-19, the remote culture picked in other parts of the world where people can work from home without having to be at the office, especially when you're not rendering essential services. Now, that was a thing. And so shortly afterwards, other countries, other parts of the world, I beg your pardon, started catching up with, the remote culture. But for Africa and for Nigeria, specifically, I would say Nigeria, it's very tough to embrace the remote work culture, to work remotely. Maybe you're probably working for a company that's in the US and then you're in Nigeria, because poor internet infrastructure, there's so much that you have to grapple with. So we're hoping that all of these funds, and with the breakdown, it would be utilized if it gets through the entire process, it's gotten the funds are approved, and it will be utilized, as has been said. It will be a good thing for us. But fingers crossed, let's see how all of that pans out. Now, another one that caught my interest is that the House of Representatives is proposing a major change to the Nigerian Constitution to improve representation. Very applaudable, if you like to say. 10% of the National Assembly seats would be reserved for women, and 5% will be reserved for persons with disability. That's the PWDS. For every other time you see that word, that's what it means, persons with disabilities. Now, the Speaker of the House, Honorable Tajuddin Abbas, made the announcement during the opening of the 2025 National Assembly Open Week in Abuja, the FCT. Now, here's what the proposal means, if you don't already know. It means that 83 new seats will be added just for women. 83 new seats will be added just for women. If I was on the radio now, there would be like, upload. 55 in the House of Representatives, increasing from 360 to 415. That's something to commend. From 360 in terms of representation, House of Representatives, there's an increase to 415 members. Now, 28 in the Senate, bringing the total lawmakers from 469 to 552. Now, for persons with disability, we're looking at 5% of existing seats, which will be set aside. Qualified candidates. However, this sounds very good. The proposed 10% reserved seats for women does not meet the global benchmark for women's representation in politics. I'm sorry. Commendable progress, yes, because the United Nations and the international or the Interparliamentary Union, that's the IPU, recommend a minimum of 30% representation for women in national parliament to ensure meaningful participation, I beg your pardon, and influence. That's it. So it doesn't mean, so 30% and we're at 10%. Oh, we're just going to get there eventually. Nigeria's current level of female representation is one of the weakest, or lowest, if you like to say, in the world, with less than 5% of seats held by women in the National Assembly. This is not news. So the proposed 10% quota is a step forward. Have we made progress? Yes. Is it enough? No. Can we do better? Yes. So it falls short of the international standards of 30% affirmative action goal. Nigeria has committed to various policy documents, and that's the thing. So because agreement is agreement, that's what it is. If you commit to all of these documents and treaties as a national, entity, why don't you keep to it and respect it. Well, that's the much that we can take at this point in time. We'll take a quick break. When we return, we'll delve into our conversation right here. Please stay with us.
Tell us you're a Nigerian without saying a word. Energy security is one of the most pressing issues for many developing countries like Nigeria. And if there's going to be any meaningful progress, addressing our energy issues is non-negotiable.
I need to see light from my house. Make them do something.
Band A is expensive. I literally have to turn off all my appliances just to reduce costs.
We need light.
Introducing the Energy Outlook, your go-to show for everything energy. Every week, we'll bring you the latest insights, innovation, and in-depth analysis of Nigeria's energy sector. From policy discussions to regulatory insights, we'll analyze the key decisions influencing growth and sustainability in the energy sector. We'll bring you the human stories behind the headlines, giving you a personal perspective on the broader energy challenges. Join me every Friday at 6 p.m. for the Energy Outlook, your guide to the future of energy, where energy means business.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us. Navigating Love, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with one story at a time.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change. What Are You Saying has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Welcome back. You're still watching Ways hashtag. What are you saying? Now, entrepreneurial approaches, particularly those grounded in social entrepreneurship, civic technology, and public-private partnership, I beg your pardon, are increasingly being used to foster transparency and promote citizenship engagement and deliver essential services across different parts of the world, developed climes, if you like to say. And these interventions are not merely about business development, but about creating systemic change by harnessing the ability and creativity and accountability inherent in entrepreneurship practices. As Africa experiences rapid digital transformation, maybe some people would say, maybe, just maybe, this would be actually a savior for the continent and Nigeria at large. At the end of the day, Nigeria is not left out in this conversation. So we're saying over the years, it looks as though the government has failed in providing essential services, living up to her expectation and what have you. Now, joining us to make sense of all of this is Olubunmi Oluwadare, who is a National Business Development Service Provider. That's the NBDSP. I hope I got that correctly. Thank you so much. He's also the author of the book, I See Money in Africa, that which I'm about to read, or I've started reading. Quite interesting. Good to have you join us tonight in the studio.
Yeah, this, evening.
Yes. I'm wondering where to start the conversation from, but let's take it up from this point. 5 years ago, you wrote a book, or not a book, you wrote an open letter to the former president, Muhammadu Buhari, and the 36 states governors.
Yes.
Yes. And in that, you were asking them to allow entrepreneurs to provide solutions to Nigeria's socioeconomic challenges. How exactly can entrepreneurs do that?
Thank you so much, Mercy. I'm happy to be here this evening. Let's look at this way. You look at Nigeria's socio-economic challenges over a period of so many years, the same challenges remain. There's no continent, that will be happy, or nation that will see economic challenges remain the way it is. So what's going on? What solution do we have, to put in place? And that's why I wrote the letter. Having, been entrepreneurial, ecosystem, I myself, for over a period of 20-something years, so I understand the ecosystem. And I look at it, the political gladiators, they are not, offering, innovative solutions to this problem. The problem keep occurring. So I wrote them a letter that you don't even need to bother yourself again. Hand over the problem to entrepreneurs, let them solve it for you. All the problem, all the socio-economic challenges facing Nigeria can be solved. I even told them to the extent that it takes so many years, 4 years, it doesn't take more than 2 months. Gather all the entrepreneurs who have the solution. They have it. Entrepreneurs are looking for problem to solve. In problem, we make money. So what we are facing as a nation is a socio-economic problem. So where are you keeping the problem? Allow us. You can see what happened recently, and everybody, Dangote is a practical example. So over the years, we can't even refine our crude oil. Over 50 years problem. We keep on, importing petroleum products. We thought we are making money as a nation because we are so much, have a trader mindset. That's the truth. Our leader have the trade mindset. Let's sell the product, make money. They don't even look at the value chain. What those products can bring in, the job opportunity that I can create. And that go to step in, less than 8 years. Today we have, crude oil refinery, over 650,000, barrel per day refinery from one man. Just one serial entrepreneur. So that's what we're talking about. So all the socio-economic challenges, the housing, manufacturing, name it, road construction, name any of the problem. There's an entrepreneur waiting, both locally and internationally, to offer innovative solutions to this problem. And that's why I wrote the letter. But fortunately, they don't just care. They just look at it. They read the letter, definitely.
You sure they read the letter?
In the newspaper. I put in this day newspaper then. So it's open to, I got a lot of calls. People are calling me that, wow, this is brilliant.
But did the president call you, the former president?
No.
Or the office?
Or the governors, none of them. They just look at it. What is he saying? But today, the problem remains.
So, but, prior to this time, the conversation that we've always had is that we need to create a favorable environment for entrepreneurs to thrive. So it's quite almost counterculture, to hear this conversation that it's on the other side, that the entrepreneurs actually have the solution to the problems, that Nigeria is faced with. So one of such that you have mentioned is road infrastructure, poor road infrastructure. Now, usually you would say that because it is very sensitive, it's a sensitive project, and it's also capital intensive, you can't allow that into the hands of private individual. And that's why the government is responsible for such kind of projects and activities. So I'd like to know how the entrepreneurs or the private sector, because if we talk about entrepreneurs now, we're talking about the private sector. So how can the private sector, provide proper road infrastructure, which has been a major challenge? I saw a picture of a road in Cross River, the Ikom Obudu Road, where I'm a Cross Riverian.
Yeah, that's good.
Terrible road. It's a road which, when I checked, is under the purview of the federal government. And I'm sure that if you want to look at it and follow it, there's so much budget and allocation and others going on. So, but I'd like to know how the private sector can delve into providing road infrastructure for a system where that it's quite sensitive, the project is sensitive, capital intensive, and because of all of these characteristics, it is a responsibility of the government, to do that.
Thank you very much for that question. There's no challenges that entrepreneur cannot solve, which include road infrastructure. Let me put you into perspective. You remember Lagos-Ibadan Expressway at the time? Babala King of, what's the name of the company, the man that holds the second airport, offer solution to reconstruct Lagos-Ibadan and tow it. And they've started, putting a lot to get things together. They have done a 3D drawing. It's going to have train, a lot of things. They put infrastructure on the road. It's not just road construction. When an entrepreneur step into, projects, we look at, value added, initiative we can add to some project. So Babala King, put that thing in perspective, that road from Lagos to Ibadan should have a lot of things on the way that should be, where you can stop and, have refreshment. There's need to have a bus stop, street light, mechanic village, a lot of things on the axis. This man put a lot of things in place, but government bureaucratic bottleneck stop the project.
But what is it going to be? At what cost?
It's going to tow.
Okay, so it's going to come at its cost.
That's why I said all the problem is money to entrepreneur. It's going to tow the road, but the infrastructure will work better. Government can do a road. They want to do now. I don't think there's a street like that.
So, in other words, if I get you correctly, you're talking about privatization.
It's a privatization, but we have messed up the word privatization. That's what I want to mention it again. That's why I'm saying entrepreneurial intervention. Everybody is saying PPP. The PPP has been personalized by the political gladiator. They are now hiding other item to do. And no, it's entrepreneurial intervention that can work in this part of the world.
Well, so let's forget about the nomenclature, whether it's entrepreneurial or it's private
PPP,
partnership or whatever it is. At the end of the day, we know that the private sector is involved. Now, let's begin to look at some of the things that have been privatized in Nigeria. Electricity, we know that is one of it. Not entirely.
Yes.
Not entirely.
Part of
it was Ombondo.
Yeah.
How would you rate that, honestly, now? How would you think that we have fared, being that is in the hands of the private sector?
Something messy. What we are doing now would have done long time ago. Power sector would have been liberated for a long time and segmented in such a way that states, local government can have their own power supply, not rely on national grid. That's why we're having challenges over the years. When then Governor Tinubu wants to do something with Aaron and bring Aaron into Lagos and power Lagos, you see the political gladiator, how they, stop the project. By now, Lagos will have uninterrupted power supply. That's what we call embedded power supply. It will have gone, the way of private-driven in power sector for a long time ago. We wouldn't have even talking about power challenges today. Every state by now will have their own, power, generation and distribution. And that's the way to go. Even to head states, Practically in my estate for the past 3 years now, I've not seen, on the light is constant. I can tell you for free. Why? Because of it's private driven. So it's possible, it's doable. And the one we are still enjoying today is because private sector came into power sector and do something. That's where we can. The way it happened in telecommunication is supposed to be the way in power. I can decide to go, with, let's say, African Power Generation Company. If they supply me, I can port to another generation. So that's how it's supposed to be liberated, and we should be able to have an option. And power, there are so many ways you can, generate power and distribute power. You know what I'm saying? We have solar, and God's, bless this nation with every tool needed for us to have uninterrupted power supply.
But I know that over the years, even in school way back, that argument has always been that government has no business in business.
Business, yeah.
That government should hands
That's
off business
yes,
for
definitely.
the private sector, or create an enabling environment. Because now you were saying that the private sector should be in the business, not necessarily harnessing the environment. Except I'm wrong, then you can correct me. Because over the years, the theory has always been that government has no business in being in business. So therefore, create an enabling environment so that the private sector can drive. Is that what you're saying?
The enabling environment we're talking about is going to power it. We're talking about the government. Let me explain something to you.
Okay.
When we're talking about the government, we're talking from the federal to state to local government. They have money because they have FAC allocation they share every month. That's money. And they line up a lot of projects through their budget for year per year. All those projects, go and look at it. It's going to be powered by entrepreneurs or private sector. From the road construction to building an hospital, to do a lot of things, it's still private sector driven that will make it to happen. So most of the time, they don't give the accolade to private sector. Look at the road infrastructure going on in Lagos Calabar Express Road now. Who is powering it? High tech. It's a private sector. You understand what I'm saying? They are the one that will do it. You understand what I'm saying? So creating an enabling environment you're talking about, is it going to be powered by private sector? Civil servant cannot do anything than to disburse money, for those projects. That's why I give kudos to the people, especially the private sector, that make those projects to happen. What we are enjoying in Nigeria today, we should give kudos to private sector. If we were to hand everything to to political graduate or civil servant, we wouldn't have seen anything. And it's a fact. They are not power to push project from the point A to point Z. That's the truth. So whatever we're talking about, anybody, Messi can be a governor. Give me money. And this is the project I will pay. It's not my money. Private sector will go and look for money. They plan the project and they see the project to the end. Kudos should be to them. That's the truth.
But so let's talk about because as much as in the books, that's what I was taught, and it's always easy to say that hand it over to the private sector. The private sector is the best thing that can happen. But then we have seen again, and we're constantly queried, because I'm asking, do you think that the private sector, especially example that I've cited, I'm not going to talk about, or I haven't talked about the communication sector yet, but I'm talking about the power sector. So we know that it was unbundled. So yes, government is still responsible for another part, but we talk in terms of what part was unbundled, the generation, the GenSco?
The generation
of power.
Distribution is still in the hand of government.
So the generation.
Through the national grid.
So if we look at it now, as a country, 237 million people, approximately, with the statistics. It's not like we've had any sense.
Of course, that's what.
So there's just, all of that calculation. Now, 237
that,
plus, let's believe that. If we look at what we're generating, we're not generating up to 5,000 megawatts.
For a population of 200 million plus.
And it's been privatized. So I'd like you to explain why we should think that the private sector has what it takes to deliver the continent, Africa, Nigeria, from where it is.
Mercy, a lot of things is wrong. I'm a Christian. I said, when the foundation is destroyed, there's nothing righteous do. The power sector need to be on board with. Nigeria is a big nation. I said it earlier. That's why I said, whatever we're doing as a nation, the population of Lagos alone is bigger than Ghana as a nation. So when we are talking about, in project, we have to look at our nation, our landmass, how big we are. Imagine a state like my state, a state is generating its own electricity, maybe less than 150 megawatt, which is enough to power the entire state. Do we need national grid? One power company can just come to that state and establish their own, power plant and restructure their distribution network of power to the village or the town within the community. And that's how we can end this problem. But when you generate the power, you're still waiting for the national grid that is obsolete to put your power into, there's going to be a problem.
No,
so the infrastructure is obsolete. I mean the connecting, the power lines, that connect the light from where you generate it to the community or to the city. So a lot of things needed to, break down. Let every state generate their own power. Local government can do their own. Even individual can generate their own power if possible. You understand what I'm saying? And that's what the power reform says.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was going to come to that. We'll take a quick break now, and maybe when we return, the conversation will continue right here. Please stay with us. If you're just watching, this is Ways, and we're talking about how entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship can actually intervene in the problems that Africa as a continent is faced with. And of course, Nigeria is not left out in all of this. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Life is made up of moments, some that fill us with joy, others that test our strength. Welcome to Heartlines. This is our space to explore the highs and lows of human connection, the love, the heartbreak, and resilience that shapes our life. From relationships to friendships, parenting to partnerships, and so much more. Every week, we share stories and conversations that define us, navigating love, separations, the struggles of parenting, dealing with anxiety and managing the pressures and stress of life. Real conversations that bring us closer, helping us heal, grow, and connect. So join me Mondays through Fridays at 10 p.m. for Heartlines, the show where we connect hearts, have real conversations with real people, one story at a time.
You're still watching Ways right here. It's amazing evening tonight, and we're talking about the role of the private sector. Now, some people believe that the private sector really might just be the saver. The conversation is usually on the other side of the divide. So it looks like we're having that counter conversation tonight, where we think that government would have to, feed the private sector because the private sector is going through a lot. But here, some people believe that the private sector really has a role, and they can intervene, and it can solve the problem that Africa is facing as a continent, and Nigeria is not so left out. The issue of poor infrastructure, that includes health infrastructure, road infrastructure, amongst others. Now, making sense of all of this is a very experienced personnel who's in the studio with me tonight, Olubunmi Oluwadare, who is a national business development service provider. He's also an author, business mogul, if you like to say, author of the book, I See Money in Africa. There's one that you need to see. But before that break, Olubunmi, once again, thank you so much for being part of the show. Before that break, we're talking about the private sector.
Yes.
The belief has always been there. It's always been, propagated that the private sector is the solution, and that government has no business in business, allow the private sector to thrive. And so we're looking at the example of, the power sector, and we understand that it's been privatized, not entirely,
yeah.
because the government is also still responsible for other parts, which is the distribution. And so the generation, which is the GenSco, is in the hands of, the private sector.
Yeah.
Now, in our country, for a country with a population of 237 million people, estimate, and we're just,
Yes.
saying. We are only generating between 3,500, 4,000 or 5,000 megawatts. We have the capacity to generate about 13,000 or 14,000 installed, so we have that capacity. Again, I want you to make me believe and make it make sense. While the private sector is still responsible for generation, and yet we don't have up to the installed capacity. So why do you think the private
Thank you,
sector
Mercy.
has...
There is what they call bureaucratic bottleneck that is always giving problem to entrepreneurial intervention. And it's what is happening in this part of the world we find ourselves. Most of these power, generation projects are being powered by gas turbine. And you don't have gas on your own. You still rely on government to supply gas to those stations. So if there's no gas for you to power your, your power generation, something, what are you going to do? So the bureaucratic bottleneck, there's still need for a total liberalization of that sector. Government still hold a lot of things in their hands. The bottleneck affects every entrepreneurial intervention that entrepreneurs want to put on the table. You see the last time Aliko Dangote has to, cry out. Permit me to use that word, because there's no crude oil to the refinery of over $20 billion. You can't put your money in an investment and there's bottleneck from government that will not allow it to function to the optimum. And that's what is happening in power sector. All this power is there. They have the capacity, but there's impediment for them to get, gas. Because most of them are using gas. We have not built any solar farm that can power a lot of things, So those are the challenges those people, the investors, the entrepreneurs are facing in power sector. Look at what happened in Lagos. Imagine they allow Aaron to, come up at that particular time. They brought a lot of their equipment to the water in Lagos, very close to Lagos, to start generating. They have the equipment already. They are not building any equipment. It's coming through barges for them just to connect. And they have technology to make sure that it's very fast to distribute the power across Lagos. But federal government said no. And Lagos state population is over 40 million. And it's the engine room there. If Lagos power sector stopped today, there won't be any problem. You know what Lagos state government have done over the years? Now to have a segment power, allows our power something to generate to government house, generate for the courts, they embedded in such a way that their critical infrastructure hospital can be powered by themselves and go to all those places. There's uninterrupted power supply for the past years. And so many institutions like Canaan in Ota, they have their own power for the past years. And they're using gas turbine to power it. And they have uninterrupted power supply. So what I'm saying is that if we want us to really lay this power challenge, we have to stimulate it in such a way that everybody will generate and distribute their own power, more especially, the critical infrastructures.
But now that, the Electricity Act of 2003, if I'm not mistaken, it's been unbundled, it allows states and individuals, to dabble into generating their own power. Where's the private sector in all of this? Because, anyways, for states like Abia State, we hear that they're doing a lot of great work.
Yeah, now.
Yeah, they are doing a lot of great work. So this is where we should see the private sector thriving.
That's how we should work.
No, because it's been unbundled. So 36 states. How come we're just only hearing about the works of Abia State?
The reason is that I said it earlier. If you have a challenge, if you don't open your door for people to come in and solve it for you, it remains.
No, but
Abia State government said, no, we have this problem. And immediately the private sector entered the Abia. They created the initiative to make sure that they generate power and distribute it within Abia State and meter it.
Okay.
So that people can really pay for what they use.
Because there are other sectors, I don't want us to dwell on the power sector again. So the challenge that Africa as a continent is faced with is the same. There seems to be a lot of uniformity. So in terms of governance, you have lack of transparency. There's corruption, accountability.
Corruption,
So again, I'm very curious as to how the private sector can intervene and, save the day. Like a Superman.
Yeah. God so blessed this continent. Mercy. We are blessed. Over 1.3 billion people. our purchasing power is closer to about $4 trillion. And that's what developed nations are high. We have huge natural resources, human capital. We have everything. So what is lacking? We don't have visionary leaders. We don't process what we have. So for us to solve this problem as a continent, number one thing is that it's planning. We talk too much in Africa. Our leaders had several meetings. I'm a project management expert. If I want to do any project, I plan it from point A to Z. And I look at it critically, and I make sure that I follow the master plan of the flow I put on the table to make sure that the project is the light of the day and it's sustainable. So when we're talking about African nations, we have over 40 African nations with different challenges. But our challenges are very similar. What is similarity in our challenges? Bad leadership, incompetent leadership, who can open the door for the people who can help them to solve the problem. See what Adiko is doing. I keep on mentioning. Do you know how many nations now that their ports are not receiving, vessel bringing petroleum products from other parts of the world since the, establishment of this refinery in Nigeria? You know what it takes for you to bring fuel from Ghana, from US or from India, from China to Nigeria? I mean, petroleum products, 65, 70 days. But now from Ibejuleki to, now the man is able to distribute the petroleum products everywhere at free of charge. So when we're talking about intervention, you have to open your door down. You have to list your challenges.
But I mean, I'm talking about, the issue of corruption. So yes, again, I would agree with you that, leadership is a problem. Again, our very own Chino Achebe had said that the problem with Nigeria is not about the climatic environment or whatever it is, but it's about leadership. Leadership. And so, yes, that's agreed. But you are a proponent of that the private sector is the real deal, and they're not can solve the problem that the government has failed. So whatever government has failed on delivery, except I'm wrong, you can correct me. So now, again, like I said, corruption is a big deal. We've seen that played so many times in Nigeria. There are different cases. Abdul Rashid Miners Gate. You want to go on and on and on. There are a lot of
the refinery pumping money to not working for how many years now?
There's just so much to go on, endless. So I'm very particular how the private sector can solve this. The private sector, again, is not the political gladiator. Go ahead.
Have you imagined Nigeria without crude oil?
I would think about it.
When there's no FAC allocation every month, being shared by 3 tiers of government, federal, state, and local government, you won't see a lot of people contesting for any political office. And that's where we had before. The crude oil is supposed to be a blessing to us. I'm talking about the foundation of the corruption. If you were to be a governor of your state, you know that you have to generate money by yourself to pay the civil servant, provide infrastructure. The people that don't have brain will not come near the government again. But because you wait in your state at every month, Messi, there's billions coming to you. You don't borrow it from the bank. That's what they use the word share. If you look at the one they share last, it's trillions. And they share it like that every month, generated from the crude oil sales. No leader will function in that capacity. But when you know there's no money coming, you look at internally, what resources do I have? How do I harness these resources to generate income and create job opportunity and provide infrastructure? And that's where there's corruption. That's why I was telling you that in case they say, oh, there's no FAC allocation again, you let the people not near power again. People like us will love to contest at that particular time because we are entrepreneurs. We know how to convert what we have into money. Not only money, we convert it, to create job opportunity for our people. So the corruption is being, propelled by access to free money. Let me tell you that one for free. And that's what is the problem in Africa. Not only Nigeria, nearly all the African nations, because we have a lot of large resources. Money is flowing. The country like Japan, where they don't have so many, where are they developed nation?
You know, money is flowing. I'm going to write that down because I'm going to ask you a question. I hope that we have time. But let's allow our listeners, or I beg your pardon, our audience to join the conversation. If you are watching right now, wherever it is you're watching from, remember that you can join the conversation. All you need to do is send a message, SMS or WhatsApp to the number 081-8038-46 and 63. That's the number to send your messages to. The phone lines are open. It means that you can calling on the show 070-250-007749 or 070-1424-24 and Let us hear what you have to say. Tonight, we're talking about entrepreneurial intervention for good governance in Africa. In other words, entrepreneurs can actually intervene for good governance. The fact that government has failed in delivering public goods, which is very essential because, again, it was elementary government that all of this is actually, for government to do and what have you. Before I get back to that, there's money, and I'm going to ask you why, if there's money, why are people leaving the continent? A lot of young people, everybody's open leaving. If I have an opportunity, maybe I might just leave. But again, you mentioned the issue of planning. You talked about planning, and you said, oh, there's no, planning. And that's the problem. But I remember that as a country, from 1960, from when we gained independence, we've had first development plan, we've had second development plan. First development plan would have spanned from 1962 to about 1968. And then you have a second development plan, from that time, again to third and fourth. And then we got to a point where we now had Vision 2020. Before that, the Structural Adjustment Program. That's 1986 and all of that, yes. So these have all been planned. So do you also think that, the problem is the planning, that we lack planning? Because we've had plans, and we continue to have plans.
The first planning of the how old days, where we have regional government, is a very well stimulated plan, where every region develop their resources they have. Southwest, they have cocoa. And when you look at the tallest building in Nigeria, in Africa, then it's cocoa building in Ibadan. The money to build that infrastructure is from cocoa, rubber, sales from the Southwest. The Southeast and South depend on palm, oil. They make it, even for the extent that the Malaysia government have to come to Nigeria to go and learn. Today, Malaysia is the toppest, producer of palm oil in the world. In the north, they were talking about the pyramid, right? That's the coconut. I mean, what they call it?
The granite pyramid.
Everybody was developing their own something, and things are working perfectly until when the emergency of the crude oil came. We now know that, everything we started bad. A lot of factories, if you look at Lagos, then they call it, the Oluwole area in Ilupeju, they call it the Ilupeju industrial area, where a lot of factory, processing our raw material. Cadbury came from UK to Lagos, processing our cocoa into chocolate and other things, and we're exporting a lot of money. We have nearly a lot of the products we are using in Nigeria that was being manufactured in Nigeria. So what happened? Immediately we see that crude oil. You know what it is to have a product you can sell at $100? That's the basic on our productivity. When we move away from the normal stimulated economic development we have to unstimulated, meaning that I have my crude oil, I sell it and make $1. No. Instead of me to process my crude oil and sell the value chain and create job opportunity, do you know how many products in crude oil that nobody cares? Until Dangote came in and said, no, we can get gas, we can get a lot of things, we can get rubber, we can get what they call it, fertilizer, from the byproduct. So the planning I'm talking about, now immediately the oil came into our assistant. Go and look at it, everything changed. Everybody were now talking about resource control. Resource control. The Niger Delta people, these things coming from our land, we are not seeing anything. We want to control our product. Nothing like resource control before. Whatever every region had before is their product. Everybody, my father of late memory is a teacher and he's a farmer. We have cocoa plantation. We have cola nuts. And we are making money from those as a teacher. Because everybody believes that you have to have other things. But immediately today, do you have anybody? Everybody's going to politics because it's very lucrative. It's very lucrative. Somebody called me a few days ago and said, can you become a governor? I said, I can. For me to become a governor of my state, I would need about 10 billion. For me to put such money to gubernatorial election. Why not put such money into industrial hub and create thousands of jobs for people and make more money? So it's now becoming an industry. Political ecosystem in Nigeria and in most African countries is an ecosystem. And that's impediment for development. That's the reason. Other nations that we call development nations, go and check their history. Look at the issue of China. Look at Turkey, very close to us. Everybody is eyeing our population. They earn our raw material to take back and reproduce, and bring back to us. And you are doing that, you are taking away our job. And that's why our economy, our currency has never been strong. That's why any country can just throw any policy that will affect us, because our people want to run away. The greener pasture is here, not there. But we don't even value our greener pasture because we don't see it.
So it brings me back to that question, because you had said that earlier on, that there's money, and there's money here.
In Africa, that's what I wrote the book.
Well, I understand. So you said there's money here, and I'm asking, if there's money here, then why are we saying that there's no money? Because again, there's money here. So we're talking about Nigeria now. We're not just talking about Africa.
Yeah.
So there's money in Nigeria. Is that what you mean?
Yes.
There's money in Nigeria.
Nigeria is the powerhouse of Africa.
If there's money in Nigeria, so how come we constantly complain that we don't have money as a nation?
We have a lot of money in Nigeria.
Why do we say we don't have money?
It's because we don't understand what we have. That's where the knowledge is lacking. Let me give you a scenario. Our number one thing is our educational curriculum is totally obsolete. From primary school to university. We don't even see the money. Our knowledge economy will make you to see what is around you. And that's what we lack. If you,
No, go ahead.
If you have a knowledge economy, it will let us to know that, a bitumen that is coming out of Ondo State, we can have about 10 byproducts coming out of bitumen that can add value to us, make more money, create job opportunity, and make our environment to be, greener for people not to live a greener patch, for a greener pasture in another place. So our knowledge, educational knowledge is what we have. We don't have knowledge economy that will teach us how to convert what we have into what we need. And in doing that, we explore the value chain to create more opportunity for our people. So you can't see the opportunity when you lack knowledge economy. You can never see.
Before we go, because I'm being told by the director that we have less than 3 minutes on this particular show. But just before we go, I also remember that in your letter, you noted that thousands of young entrepreneurs, foreign investors, showed interest in solving problems of the country when you wrote to the president, former president, manufacturing, mining. Could you elaborate on the types of solution that they were ready to provide?
I said it. I myself, I'm one of my company, I introduced solar power tricycle to federal government about 10, 12 years ago. That this is a vehicle that doesn't need anything than the sun for inner street commuting. That if you're charging 100 naira, you could charge 30, 50 naira because you are not buying fuel. We put every apparatus in place. The investors from China, they came around. We want to be assembling locally. The bureaucratic bottleneck of the government cut it short. For me to say this one is what I experienced. Do you know thousands of entrepreneurs pushing out idea to government, from federal to state to local government, and the file will not move away from the table, even when they are spending their own money, even when it's a public-private partnership initiative. So the bureaucratic bottleneck is an impediment, that shakes a lot of. There's no problem. Gather all the entrepreneurs in Nigeria and across the world and tell them the problem of the nation and ask them to provide solution for it. We can solve the problem on a round table.
In a few seconds, your last words, because we're hosting it down. What would you be your words to the government, to everybody?
My word is to tell our Nigerians to push the people that are competent to power. That's what I'm going to say tonight, because when they are not competent, there's nothing will happen, and will remain like this for a long time. For a long time, because there's no.
And the private sector cannot do anything.
How can private sector will be doing their own something and making more money, but they will not come to government because of a lot of things that will not allow them to solve the problem,
right.
And the problem will remain.
We would have to have this conversation some other time. I'm told that we have to go. Thank you so much, Bumi Oluwadari. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here this evening.
Yes, please. And for you tuning in tonight, 8 o'clock up until this moment, really thank you so much for being part of the show. Now, before I go, I'd like that you subscribe to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV and interact with us further. Drop a comment and most importantly, follow us on all of our social media platforms and engage. Remember to like, share, comment and invite your friends and family to watch the show after now. If you missed our quote for today, this is what he says, that good governance is perhaps the single most important factor in eradicating poverty and promoting development. This is according to Kofi Annan. I will see you tomorrow. Well, all things being equal, enjoy the rest of your evening. My name is Messi Bopo. Have a good evening. Peter.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.